Hello, everyone. So, my name is Sarah. I am a mother of three kids. I have an 11-year-old that's in a charter school. He's in the fifth grade. Then I've also got a 7-year-old that I homeschool, and he also goes to another public school for a few hours a day as well. And today I kind of wanted to jump on here and talk about an incident that happened with my 11-year-old at school on Friday. I received a phone call from the principal letting me know that my son was suspended from school. And when I say suspended, I mean it was literally like a couple hours. Like they told me he can go back to school on Monday, but he couldn't, that I needed to come and pick him up. So I mean we're talking like a 2 hour suspension. But either way, it is a suspension and it does go on his school record. And when the principal told me what happened regarding the suspension, I really wasn't in agreement with the situation. I didn't feel that it was something that really was appropriate for being suspended. And basically, what the principal had told me was that my son and his friend had a crumpled up ball of paper and that they were throwing it and making explosion sounds as though the piece of paper was a bomb. And I said to the principal, I said, I don't understand why this is a suspension. My son has never been in trouble in your school before. He's never gotten any trouble. There's been no emails, nothing. It's, as far as I know, he's been a star player all year in school. So why are we jumping to such an extreme punishment for something that really isn't, in my opinion, that extreme? It's kids like to pretend and so I don't understand, like, why are we not doing like ISS or detention or a conversation or anything? We're just jumping straight to, oh, you're suspended. And the principal just said, oh, we have a zero tolerance policy on this because of, all the stuff that's been happening with other schools. And, she's referring to, I believe, like the shootings and things like that are occurring. And I am going to be making another video because I'm doing some research into that regarding the elementary schools because I don't think that we should be creating policies that are one size fits all when you have all this wide range of ages that you're dealing with. I've looked into elementary schools and it's not the actual students that are causing harm to those schools. It's actually adults and older children that are coming into the schools. And that really begs the question of how they're gaining access to these schools. But I digress. So I am friends with my son's friend's mom, who was also suspended that day for the same incident. There were actually... Originally, when I first spoke to the principal, it was 4 kids. She said that there were 4 kids being suspended. Come to find out, once we got to the school, that dropped down to 3. Because the poor kid, the 4th kid in this, wasn't even involved in it at all. His desk just happened to be near them, and that's why, he got called down to the office. And from what I hear, this kid was like bawling his eyes out. Because he had nothing to do with this at all. He was doing his work and he got called down to the office for it. So I get to the school. Me and the mother are already kind of heated. We're in agreement on this, that we don't think that they should be jumping straight to a suspension because that goes on a kid's record. That follows them. As a matter of fact, we're currently in the process, both me and this mother, we're already not happy with the school. So next year we're looking to put them in an online school. And one of the questions on that online application is it asks if there's been any suspensions on their record. And it does state that there's a possibility that they may not accept that student, if they have any suspensions. We really got to be careful when we're suspending our kids for something that really could just easily be a conversation, and then just kind of watch and making sure that the kid doesn't do it again. But even so we get to the school and the superintendent just so happened to be there. So me and this mother, like, I haven't even seen my son yet. Like, they called him up several times and he never showed. And then we ended up getting pulled into this meeting with the principal and the superintendent. And we're having a conversation, and it's mostly this other mother talking to them about her child and her feelings on the whole situation, because her child actually has been suspended prior. And again, we didn't feel that the suspensions really were warranted. So, that happened. But then after we got out of the meeting and they finally brought my son up, like, I think it was like 10 minutes later, mind you, we've been there now, like, I don't know, like a half an hour, maybe even more, just trying to battle this out. And my son and his friend were in the parking lot, and I just asked them, I said, hey, I'm like, I need you guys to understand that you guys are not in trouble, that we don't agree with this regardless. But I want the honest to God truth of what happened. And they complied, and both of their stories were consistent. You know, there was no stumbling on words or anything. They were very clear about what happened. My son explains that he, when they were in with the principal interviewed them all three kids together. I think the fourth kid was there as well, but he ended up getting dismissed because all three kids were like, no, he had nothing to do with this. He just sits next to us. So what these two children tell me is, first of all, my son says that when the principal was asking them about the incident, he didn't say anything because he was scared. Again, he's never been in trouble before. So this kid was frozen. He said that he couldn't speak, that his heart was racing, that he was scared of how much trouble he was going to be in with me, because I do set clear expectations for my child. And that, you know, severe punishments will come down if he's doing something that he knows that he should not be doing. But in this case, that wasn't what happened. And the other little girl, his friend, they both confirm that she tried multiple times to explain to the principal that that's not what they were doing, him and his friend, not this third kid. He's going to come in here in a minute. So basically what happened was this little girl had crumpled up a piece of paper that she had messed up something on. And they were kind of fooling around. What they were doing was she was taking the piece of paper, dropping it on the ground and pretending that it was a fish. And then my son would go catch it. And they were doing it with British accents. Now, I've actually had her over at my house before, and they do stuff like that all the time. So perfectly believable. I have no reason to doubt that that's actually what they were doing. And like I said, their stories were very, very consistent, not rehearsed, just very consistent. And what had happened was, they were doing that, and this third child came in, and he grabs the piece of paper after my son had set it on her desk. He grabs the paper and throws it, not at anybody, just throws it, and proceeds to make a sound of like a bomb exploding. And that's what they all got suspended for. And from my understanding, the little girl got labeled as the culprit because she's the one that actually made the piece of paper. And that my son, his actually said, all it says on his suspension paperwork is that it said something along the lines of he just picked it up and placed it on her desk. So, I mean, even the suspension paperwork even says that my son had nothing to do with it. But at any rate, so when I asked them and, you know, they said what was actually happening, they even went as far as to explain. They were like, listen, they were like, when this other kid did that, they disengaged from the game. They basically said, my son said that he raised his eyebrows in shock, and her jaw dropped, his friend. And they stopped because they knew that what was going on was not okay. And they disengaged from it. They wanted nothing to do with it because they knew that could be grounds for getting in trouble. I don't think they expected a suspension, but they knew that it wasn't okay what was going on in what this other kid did. They also went on to explain that when they got pulled into the principal's office, that the little girl tried several times to tell the principal that no, her and my son were not doing that. They were playing a fishing game, and this other child got involved. And as soon as that happened, they stopped playing. That wasn't what they were doing. And the principal, both my son and this little girl said that the principal would not let them speak. Every time she would try to talk, the principal would talk over her, interrupt her, and not let her actually defend herself and my son. And then they even went as far to say, as the third little boy that did actually do it, that he actually lied and said that they were all playing that and that they weren't. And there was actually a fourth boy that was called in, but he had nothing to do with it, and they all confirmed that he had nothing to do with this. So now these two children have a suspension on their school record that could potentially prevent them from attending any other school for something that they didn't even do. And I am wholeheartedly not okay with that. There aren't many things when dealing with elementary schools that I feel should go straight to a suspension. There are some, but not many, and certainly not this. These kids are still learning, and they might understand a concept that, certain things are dangerous, but they may not understand what follows that, what precedes that, what it leads to. And I mean, how many generations? Our generations, our parents' generations, our grandparents' generations. Let's think about the toys that we played with when we were kids, the things that we played in school, cops and robbers, things like that. And now all of a sudden, just the mention of it leads to a suspension. Like I that's a very extreme course of action to take against a student that has no record. That has done nothing wrong the entire year until allegedly now, and then to find out that they didn't even do it. And they weren't even allowed to defend themselves. They were attacked and not allowed to defend themselves. There was no justice in this. There's no lesson to be learned in this because they didn't do it. They were genuinely playing an innocent game that got, turned into something else by another student. And because of that other student's actions, now they're in trouble and they've got something on their permanent record in terms of schooling. Which, I'm glad that we were already in the process of transferring them, but now I'm hoping that it doesn't create any issues. And now this mother and I have to fight twice as hard to get this removed off of their record, because we found out after the fact that these kids weren't even able to defend themselves, that they were not able to get the truth on the record. And I even went as far as I emailed the principal and I said, I want this on the record. Both of these kids say that that's not what happened. And they both say that they tried to tell you and you would not listen to them. And that is unacceptable. So I just really wanted to post a video and see if anyone else has had similar experiences to this. I get that kids aren't angels and that they don't always tell the truth, but I had a conversation with them that gave them every reason to tell me the truth and every sign that they did tell me the truth. So we really need to have a little bit more proof than just the allegations of one person or one student who was actually the culprit and had every reason to not tell the truth. We really need to look at the broad picture of this, and also we need to question what's going on in these schools and how out of hand things are getting, to the point where two innocent kids who, in the same sentence of explaining that they're suspended, also the teacher is saying, oh, but they're really good kids. You can't say that in the same sentence as telling a parent that they're being suspended. Like, 1 and 2 don't equal. They don't match, and this is really upsetting as a parent, that I have to go to these lengths, and then that really makes me wonder what else is going on in this school, how my kids are being treated in these schools, to the point that this is what's happening. So just let me know what you think, or if anyone's had anything similar. I'd like to see how far this spans and how far this goes, because it's not good.